In order to drive out enemies, the number of worship is the same as before. For exterminating enemies, worship is for 100,000 times, and for enchantment worship is half that number. For the conquest of vassal kings, worship for 10 million times is recommended. Or keeping vassal kings under influence, the same for 10,000 times is recommended. For achieving glory with plenty of vehicles, worship for 1,000 times shall be performed. A person desiring salvation shall worship Shiva 5 crores of times with deep devotion. A person seeking knowledge shall worship Shiva, the benefactor of the world, 10 million times. A person desiring Shiva's vision shall worship him 5 million times. The Mrityunjaya mantra shall be repeated 500,000 times when Shiva shall be visible to the devotee and fulfill his desires. If a person repeats the mantra 100,000 times and begins a second installment, he will be lifted to a higher caste. When he completes the third 100,000 times, all his worldly desires will be fulfilled. In the fourth laksa he will be able to see the Lord. When the 50 laksa is completed, the Lord will confer on him all benefits. When the same mantra is repeated 1,000,000 times, the merit is tremendous. A person desirous of liberation shall worship him with darbas. O best of sages, the number everywhere is 100,000 times. A person desirous of long life shall worship him with durva grass. A person desirous of sons shall worship him with datura flowers. A datura plant with red stem is specially auspicious for worship. A worshipper using Agastya flowers will earn great fame. Worldly pleasures and salvation will be secured by a person who worships with tulasi. Great valor can be secured by worshipping with arka or kubiakal hara flowers. The worship with japa flowers, China rose, brings about the death of enemies. Karavira flowers drive away all ailments. By worshipping with bandika flowers the devotee will get ornaments, with jati flowers he will acquire good vehicles, with atasi flowers he will attain favor of Vishnu. With sami leaves he will secure salvation. With malika flowers he will secure an auspicious woman. With the splendid yuthika flowers he will not be deprived of a house. With karnakara flowers he will secure plenty of garments. With nirgandi flowers, his mind becomes pure in the world. 100,000 bilva leaves used for worship will secure the fulfillment of all desires. Use of lovely flowers in the form of garlands increases happiness and wealth. Use of seasonal flowers for worship yields liberation. There is no doubt in this. The flowers of Rajika bring about the death of enemies. 100,000 Rajika flowers shall be used for the worship of Shiva. The benefit accruing will be very great. Excepting the Champaka and the Ketaka, there is no flower which does not appeal to Shiva. All other flowers can be used for worshipping him. Now, O excellent one, listen to the quantity of and the benefit accruing from grains and pulses in their use for worship of Shiva. Heaping up rice grains by way of worship causes prosperity. 6.5 prastha, and 2 palas of rice grains constitute 100,000 in number of grains. These shall be used in their unsplit form for the worship of Shiva. Worship of Rudra shall be performed at first, and a fine cloth shall be spread over the linga. The rice grains shall be put over the cloth at the time of worship. At the end of worship, a coconut fruit shall be placed with scents and flowers etc. and fumigated with incense. The devotee shall attain the benefit of worship. Silver coins and black gram shall be given as fee to the priest as much as for 2 Prajapatya ceremonies. If the devotee cannot afford it, he shall give according to his capacity. Thereafter 12 Brahmins shall be fed. The whole of this then constitutes the Lok Sapuja complete in its details and with requisite mantras. The mantras shall be repeated 108 times, that is the rule. 100,000 gingali seeds used for worship destroy even great sins. 11 palas of gingali seeds constitute 100,000 in number. The mode of worship is the same as before. Those who desire beneficent results shall perform the puja. Brahmins shall be fed. Hence, only those who can afford shall perform this. Certainly all miseries due to great sins perish instantaneously. Performance of the worship of Shiva with 100,000 barley grains is highly efficacious. 8.5 prasthas and 2 palas of barley grains constitute 100,000 in number according to ancient calculation. The worship with barley grains, the sages say, increases heavenly pleasures. O Brahmins desiring the benefit shall perform the rite of Prajapatya. The worship of Shiva with wheat grains is highly praiseworthy. If 100,000 grains are used for worship, the devotee shall be blessed with a number of children. Half a drona of wheat will constitute 100,000 in number of grains. The mode of worship is as before. Shiva accords happiness on being worshipped with green grams. 7 prasthas and 2 palas to 7.5 prasthas of green grams constitute 100,000 in number. 11 Brahmins shall be fed. If the great Atman, the presiding deity of Dharma, is worshipped with prilgu, long peppercorns, the devotee will be blessed with happiness. His virtue, wealth, and love will flourish. A prastha of these corns constitutes 100,000 in number according to ancient authorities. 12 Brahmins shall be fed. Worship with rajika, small mustard, of Shiva shall bring about the death of enemies. 20 palas of sarspa, big mustard, constitute 100,000 in number. Worshipping with them also brings about the death of enemies. The Shiva linga shall be decorated with the leaves of adhaki and then worshipped. A cow along with necessary adjuncts shall be given in charity, and a bull shall also be given. Worship with pepper is also conducive to the destruction of enemies. The Shiva Lilga shall be decorated with the leaves of adhaki flowers and worshipped. This worship is conducive to different kinds of happiness and benefits. O best among sages, the measurement and number of grains and pulses have been explained to you by me. O Lord of sages, now listen to the calculation of 100,000 in the case of flowers. A prastha of Sunkha flowers constitutes 100,000, says Vyasa, who shows the exact measurement and calculation. 11 prasthas of Jatai and Yuthika flowers constitute 100,000 in number in each. 5.5 prasthas of Rajika flowers also constitute so many. 20 prasthas of Malika flowers constitute 100,000, while so many flowers of Gingali plant measure a little less than a prastha. Karavira flowers measure 3 times that. Scholars say that the flowers of Nirgandi too measure likewise. In Karnakara and Sirasa flowers too, the same mode of calculation holds good. 10 prasthas of Bandhujava flowers constitute 100,000. The devotee shall perform the worship of Shiva with different flowers after considering these modes of calculation for the fulfillment of desires if he has any, or for the sake of salvation if he has no desire. Now I shall explain the benefit of great potentiality accruing from dharapyagya, a mere listening to which is conducive to great welfare. After performing the regular worship of Shiva, with great devotion in accordance with prescribed rules, the devotees shall pour water in a continuous stream. This dhara worship is very efficacious in delirium due to fever. The dhara worship is very excellent in regard to flourishing series of pleasures. Different types of auspicious materials of worship shall be added to the water. Lf dhara worship is performed with ghee continuously while 1,000 mantras are repeated, the family will undoubtedly flourish. Thus the worship of Shiva shall be performed with the mantras mentioned by me. Sages have held that Brahmins shall be fed and Prajapatya rite shall be performed. Milk without sugar is usually taken for the dhara. If the devotee is deficient in intellect and yearns for the same, sugar shall be added to milk for the sake of dhara. His intellect will become as keen as that of Braspati. The dadi shall be continued till 10,000 mantras are completely repeated. If there is any crack or laceration in the body without an apparent cause, if there is any uncommon increase of love or misery anywhere, or if there be very frequent quarrels in the house, miseries will perish when the dhara worship is performed. Oiled dhara shall be performed on Shivalinga for harassing enemies. Success in the enterprise is certain. If scented oil is used, worldly pleasures will be increased. If mustard oil is used, enemies will be exterminated undoubtedly. If honey is used, the devotee will become Kubera, god of wealth. The dhara of sugar cane juice is conducive to all pleasures. The dhara of Ganga water yields worldly pleasures and salvation. In all these dharas Mrityunjaya mantra shall be muttered 10,000 times. 11 Brahmins shall be fed. O lordly saint, what I have been asked I have now explained to you completely. This will be fruitful in the world and will contribute to the achievement of all desires. I shall now tell you, as I have heard, the benefit accruing from the due worship of Shiva in the company of Skanda and Uma. He will enjoy in this world all kinds of auspicious pleasures with sons and grandsons. Then he will go to the region of Shiva that is conducive to all happiness. He will enjoy happy sports with Shiva's attendants, move about in aerial chariots that can go anywhere they pleased and that shine like 10 million suns and will be served by Rudra's maidens with songs and instrumental music, till the time of dissolution. Then he will attain perfect knowledge and ultimately salvation. Chapter 15, The Manifestation of Rudra. Narad said, O Creator, O Brahma the Fortunate, you are blessed, O foremost among devas. A wonderfully sanctifying story of Shiva has been narrated by you, today. I have heard the wonderfully divine story of the origin of the linga, the auspicious hearing of the efficacy of which destroys all miseries here. Please narrate what transpired thereafter, the grandeur of the created things and particularly the mode of creation. Brahma said, you have requested very pertinently. I shall briefly narrate what transpired later as I have heard before. When the eternal Lord Shiva vanished, O chief of Brahmins, Vihinu and I in a very happy mood withdrew our forms of swan and boar and wished for creation and sustenance of the worlds. Narad said, O Vidhi, O Brahma, O wise one, I have a great doubt. Please remove the same. How is it that both of you assumed the forms of swan and boar instead of other forms? Please tell me the reason for the same. Sudha said, on hearing these words of the noble-souled Narad, Brahma spoke after remembering the lotus-like feet of Shiva. Brahma said the swan has the power of going up steadily. It has the power of discriminating between the real and the unreal, as in separating milk from water. The swan understands the distinction between ignorance and knowledge. Hence I, Brahma, the creator, assumed the form of swan. O Narad! But I failed to cognize the refulgent form of Shiva and therefore could not exercise my power of discrimination. How can real knowledge dawn on one who is engaged in activities of creation? Hence, though in the form of swan I could not attain the power of discrimination. A boar has the power of steadily going deep below. Hence Vishnu, the wanderer in the forest, assumed the form of the boar. Or Vishnu, the protector of all the worlds, assumed the form of a boar to start a new kalpa, eon. Since the day he assumed the form of a boar, the eon by the title of Varaha has started. Or the Varahakalpa can be considered to have started since the day we two decided to assume these forms. O Narad, thus I have answered your relevant question. O sage, now listen. I shall resume the context. Remembering the lotus-like feet of Shiva, I shall explain to you the mode of creation. When God Shiva vanished, I, grandfather of the worlds, fell into contemplation, pondering on the means of carrying out his words of direction. Then, after bowing down to Shiva, getting knowledge from Vishnu and attaining the highest bliss, I decided to start the work of creation. After bowing to Shiva and instructing me, O dear one, Vishnu too vanished. After getting the blessings of Shiva and going out of the cosmic egg, Vishnu made Vaikuntha his permanent abode. Desiring to create, I remembered Shiva and Vishnu in the waters that had already been created. I offered handfuls of water as libation. Then the cosmic egg arose, consisting of 24 principles. O Brahman, then a splendid, huge form Virat appeared, and the form of waters was not seen. Confusion arose in my mind, and I performed a severe penance for 12 years, meditating on Vishnu. At that time, Vishnu appeared before me, and touching my body lovingly and joyously, he told me. Vishnu said, O Brahma, thanks to the favor of Shiva, I am capable of giving you everything. There is nothing which cannot be given to you. I am delighted. Tell me the boon you wish to have. Brahma said, O Vishnu, the fortunate one, I have been entrusted to you by Shiva. Hence it is but proper that I should request you. Please give me who request you what he has told you to give me. Obeisance be to you. This Virat form of the cosmic egg consists of 24 principles. There is no sentience in it. It is insentient. O Vishnu, you have now appeared before me, thanks to the blessings of Shiva. Confer sentience on this cosmic egg originating from Shiva's power. When I said this, the great Vishnu, adhering strictly to the directives of Shiva, assumed infinite forms and entered the cosmic egg. Vishnu, with 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes and 1,000 feet, encompassed the cosmic egg, touching the earth everywhere. When Vishnu, who was properly eulogized by me, entered it, the cosmic egg consisting of the 24 principles became sentient. Vishnu shone as the great being, the Lord of the 7 worlds, beginning with Patal. The 5-faced Lord Shiva created for his residence the beautiful city of Kailasa that shone above all. O celestial sage, Kailasa and Vaikuntha will never be destroyed, even if the whole cosmic egg is destroyed. O foremost among sages, I am staying in Satyaloka. O dear one, I desired the activity of creation at the bidding of Shiva. Even as I stood desirous of creation, the evil creation, viz. The set of 5 illusions appeared before me. It was of the nature of darkness endowed with knowledge. Then I created the chief creation consisting of immobile beings with a delightful mind. At the bidding of Shiva, I continued my meditation in a detached spirit. While creating it, I had thought it would be an aspirant after the Atman. But the creation Tiryaksrotas turned out to be full of misery. And it was not an aspirant. Realizing that it was not an aspirant, I began to ponder over the matter. Then the divine creation took shape. It was really charming. But considering that it too was not aspirant, I meditated on my Lord. Then the Rajasasarga, otherwise known as Arvaksrotas, the human creation which was a great aspirant, appeared at the bidding of Lord Shiva. Then again at the bidding of Lord Shiva the Buddhadika Sarga, creation of the elements etc., appeared. Thus 5 types of creation collectively called Vakrita were set in motion by me. Brahma evolved 3 types of creation from Prakriti. The first one was the creation of Maha, the cosmic principle of intellect. The second was that of the subtle elements. The third was Vaikarika, of the nature of transformations and ramifications. Thus with 5 Vakrita types and 3 later Prakritas there were 8 types of creation. The Kamara Sarga was the 9th. It was both Prakrita and Vakrita. I cannot adequately describe the divisions and subdivisions of all these types of creation. Last of all, I shall mention the Brahmanical creation, which is of very little utility. It is here that the great creation of Sanaka and others, referred to above as Kamara Sarga, took shape. Sanaka and others, my mental sons, were 5 in number. They were all on a par with Brahman, of good rights and averse to worldly attachment. Despite my command they were not inclined to carry on the activities of creation. Those scholarly sons turned their attention from worldly activities and were devoted to the exclusive meditation on Shiva. O Narad, they were bold enough to retort to me, whereat I became very furious and nearly senseless. When I became nearly unconscious on account of excessive fury and agitation, drops of tears fell from my eyes. At that time, on being mentally meditated upon, Vishnu came there hurriedly and enlightened me. O foremost among sages, I was instructed by Vishnu to perform the penance of Shiva. Accordingly I performed a severe penance. While I was performing penance for creation, the merciful Lord Shiva of Trinity came out of the spot called Avimutta between the eyebrows and the nose. He manifested himself as half woman and half man in full potency. On seeing the unborn Lord Shiva, a mass of refulgence, the consort of Uma, the omniscient, the creator of everything, famous as Nilalohita, straight in front of me, I saluted him with great devotion and was highly delighted. I told the Lord, please create various subjects. On hearing my words, the Lord of Lords, Rudra, created many Ganas identical with himself. I again told the great Lord Rudra, O Lord, please create those subjects, tormented by the fear of birth and death. O foremost among sages. On hearing my words, the merciful Lord Rudra laughed and said thus. Lord Rudra said, O Brahma, I shall not create the subjects tormented by the fear of birth and death. The inauspicious beings are immersed in the ocean of distress by their own actions. In my manifestation in the form of preceptor, I shall lift up these beings immersed in the ocean of distress by conferring on them perfect knowledge. You alone, create all the miserable subjects, O Lord. At my bidding, you will not be bound by illusion. Brahma said, saying this, the Lord, the glorious Shiva, vanished along with his attendants even as I was watching. Chapter 16, Description of the Creation. Brahma said, O Narad, after performing the pentuplication of the Buddhas, elements, and their attributes sound etc., I evolved the gross ether, wind, fire, water, and the earth out of them and created mountains, seas, trees etc. and the periods of time ending with Kali and other ages. I created many other things as well, but O sage, I was not satisfied. Then O sage, I meditated on Shiva and his consort Umba and created aspirants. I created Marisai from my eyes, Braga from my heart, Angaras from the head and the great sage Pulaha from the vital breath Vyana. I created Pulastya from Udana, Vasistha from Samama, Kratu from Apana, Atri from the ears and Duksha from the prana. I then created you from my lap and the sage Kardama from my shadow. Finally, I created, out of my conception, Dharma, which is the means for the achievement of everything. O foremost among sages, creating thus, thanks to the favor of Mahadeva, these excellent sadhakas, I became contented. Then, O dear one, Dharma, born out of my conception, assumed the form of Manu at my bidding and was engaged in activity by the aspirants. Then I created from the different parts of my body innumerable sons, Suras, Devas, and Asuras, demons, and many others after assigning them different bodies, O sage. I was then prompted by Shiva present within me and hence, O sage, I split myself into two, having assumed two forms. One half had the form of a woman and the other half that of a man. He then created in her a couple, the means of excellent nature. The man was Svayamhuva Manu, the greatest of the means, of creation. The woman was Sadarupa, a yogini, an ascetic woman. The auspicious lady was accepted by Manu with due matrimonial rites. O dear one, he created beings through her by the process of sexual intercourse. He begot of her two sons Priyavrata and Uttanapada and three daughters Akudi, Devahyudi, and Prasyudi, all of them very famous. He gave Akudi in marriage to Ruchi and the middle one to Kardama. He gave Prasyudi, the younger sister of Uttanapada, in marriage to Duksha. Their sons and progeny are spread over the world, both mobile and immobile. Ruchi begot of Akudi the couple Yagna and Daksina. 12 sons were born of Yagna and Daksina. O sage, Kardama begot of Devahyudi many daughters. Duksha begot 24 daughters. 13 daughters Srada etc. were given to Dharma in marriage by Duksha. O lordly sage, listen to the names of Dharma's wives. Their names are Srada, faith, Lakshmi, fortune, Dhruti, fortitude, Trupti, satiety, Pusti, nourishment, Medha, intelligence, Kriyata, right, activity, Buddhi, intellect, wisdom, Laja, bashfulness, Vasu, wealth, Santi, peace, calmness, Siddhi, achievement, accomplishment, and the 13th is Kirti, fame. The 11 younger daughters were Kyati, Sati, Samhuti, Samriti, Priti, Kasama, Sunati, Anurupa, Urja, Svaha and Svadha, who were respective, Y married by Braga, Bhava, Shiva, Marisai, the sage Angaras, Pulastya, Pulaha, the excellent sage Kratu, Atri, Vasistha, the fire god, and the Pitras, Manes. The great aspirants Braga and others took the hands of these famous daughters. Thereupon the entire universe consisting of three worlds, mobile and immobile, was filled with progeny. Thus, according to their own actions and at the bidding of Shiva, innumerable famous Brahmins were born out of the various living beings. In another kalpa, Daksha had 60 daughters. Of them 10 were given to Dharma, 27 to the moon, 13 to Kusyapa. O Narad, he gave 4 to Garuda of excellent form, 2 to each of these Bhragu, Angaras and Krisasva. Born of them are many children in the world of mobile and immobile. O foremost among the sages, the children of the 13 daughters given to the noble-souled Kusyapa by Daksha spread over the three worlds. Mobile or immobile, nothing was void. Devas, sages, demons, trees, birds, and mountain creepers born of the daughters of Daksha filled the entire space between Patala and Satyaloka. The whole cosmic egg was filled. Never was it a void. Thus, at the bidding of Shiva, the creation was perfectly accomplished by Brahma. Daksha's daughter Sati was perfectly guarded by Rudra at the tip of his trident, for the sake of penance. Shiva had created her himself, and later for the activities of the world she was born of Daksha. In order to uplift the devotees, the Lord indulged himself in many divine sports. Shiva manifested himself in 3 ways: in the form of Vaikantha, Vishnu, born of the left limb, in my form of Brahma, born of the right limb, and in the form of Rudra, born of the heart. Vishnu, Rudra, and I represent the 3 gunas. Shiva is free from gunas. He is the supreme Brahman, the undecaying. Vishnu is of Sattva attribute, I Brahma, am of Rajas attribute, and Rudra is of Tamas attribute. This is only in view of the activities in the world. But in fact and in name it is otherwise. Vishnu is of Tamasika nature within but externally Sattvika, Rudra is of Sattvika nature within but of Tamasic nature outside, I am of Rajasic nature throughout. O the goddess of speech is of Rajasic nature, Sati is of the Sattvika nature, and Lakshmi is of Tamasic nature. The great goddess Shiva is of the 3 natures. Goddess Shiva became Sati and Shiva married her. At the sacrifice of her father she cast off her body, which she did not take again, and went back to her own region. Shiva incarnated as Parvati at the request of the Devas. It was after performing a severe penance that she could attain Shiva again. O lordly sage, she came to be called by various names such as Kali, Chandika, Chamunda, Vijaya, Jaya, Jayanti, Bhadrakali, Durga, Bhagavati, Kamakya, Kamada, Amba, Mradani, and Sarvamangala. These various names confer worldly pleasures and salvation according to qualities and action. The name Parvati is very common. The goddesses of various attributes and the 3 deities of various attributes performed the diverse excellent activities of creation in mutual collaboration. O excellent among sages, I have thus explained the mode of creation to you. The entire cosmic egg was created by me at the bidding of Shiva. Shiva is the supreme Brahman. The 3 deities, Vishnu, I and Rudra, are his manifestations according to the difference in the attributes. The independent supreme Atman, who is both Nirguna and Saguna, sports with Shiva in the beautiful Shivaloka. His perfect and complete incarnation is Rudra. He is Shiva himself. The 5-faced Lord has made his beautiful mansion in Kailasa. Even if the whole Brahmanda were destroyed, it knows no destruction. Chapter 17, The Story of Gunanidhi. Sudha said, O great sages, after hearing these words of Brahma, Narad once again bowed to him and asked humbly, Narad said, when did Shiva favorably disposed to his devotees go to Kailasa? Where did he have the intimate acquaintance with Kubera of great and noble soul? What did Shiva of auspicious form do there? Please narrate all these things to me. I am deeply interested in it. Brahma said, O Narad, listen. I shall tell you the story of the moon-crested Lord, how he went to Kailasa and how he contracted friendship of Kubera. In the city of Kampilayo there was a sacrificer named Yagnata. Born of Somayaji family, he was an adept in the performance of sacrifice. He knew Vedas and Vedangas. He was a great scholar of Vedanta etc. He was honored by the king. He was a liberal-minded donor, and as such his fame had spread far and wide. He assiduously maintained the sacrificial fire and was devoted to the study of the Vedas. His son, Gunanidhi, was of a very handsome complexion and shone like the moon's disk. After the investiture with the sacred thread he learned all the 8 lores over and over again. Yet, unknown to his father, he indulged in gambling. Ever and anon he took plenty of sums from his mother and gave them over to other gamblers with whom he contracted great intimacy. He eschewed all Brahmanical ways and conduct of life. He was averse to the performance of Sandhya prayers and ceremonial ablutions. He began to speak ill of the Vedas, sacred texts, Devas, and Brahmins. He did not follow the conventions and injunctions of the Samriti code. He indulged in singing and playing. Actors, heretics etc. were his beloved friends. Although his mother wanted him to meet his father now and then, he never went near his father. Engaged in extra-domestic activities, Yagnadatta used to ask his wife, "Dear good woman, what is our son Gunanidhi doing? He is not at home." Then the woman used to say, "He has gone out just now. So long he had been taking his bath and worshipping the deities. He has finished his Vedic studies and has just gone out in the company of 2 or 3 friends for the purpose of learning somewhere." The poor woman, in view of the fact that she had only one son, deceived her husband thus. The simple husband did not know anything about the nefarious activities of his son or his bad conduct. All sacred rites ending with Kesa karma were performed in the 16th year of the son. Thereafter Yagnadatta performed the marriage rite of the son in accordance with the rules prescribed in the Grihasutras. O Narad, every day the woman, with her heart melting with motherly affection, used to make her son sit up and gently upbraid him. "Dear son, your father is surely a great man, but he is of rash temperament. If he comes to know of your activities he will beat you and will not spare me too. I conceal your nefarious activities from your father every day. Due to his good conduct and his affluent circumstances he is honored by all the people. Dear child, a good learning and association with men of saintly character constitute a great asset for Brahmins. How is it that you do not gladly take interest in such things? Your ancestors and grandfathers had all earned the reputation of being good Vedic scholars, well learned in sastras, and performers of sacrifices, especially Soma Yagas. Shun the company of the wicked people, associate with good men, turn your attention to good learning and strictly adhere to Brahmanical conventions. Emulate your father in form, fame, and traditional activity. Why don't you feel ashamed? Cast off your wickedness. You are 19 now. This girl is 16 years old. She is a good girl. Take her. Protect her. Above all, be devoted to your father. You shall respect your father-in-law also, in view of his good qualities and conduct. How is it that you do not feel ashamed of wickedness? Dear son, your maternal uncles too are matchless in learning, conduct and pedigree and other things. You are not afraid even of them. Your paternal and maternal lineages are equally pure. See the Brahmin boys of your neighborhood. Even in our house see the disciples of your father. How humbly do they behave? Dear son, if the king hears of your evil propensities, he will cease to respect your father and nay even suspend the regular maintenance allowance. Till now people used to call your activities the foolish blunders of an ignorant boy. Hereafter they may take away the traditional title of Dixita. People will curse and cavil at your father and me, saying such evil words as the son has adopted the wickedness of the mother. Your father has never been a sinner. He strictly follows the path of the Vedas and Samritas. Lord Shiva is my witness for the purity of my mind that is riveted to his feet. I have not seen the face of any wicked man after my menstrual bath. Powerful indeed is fate whence a boy like you is born of my womb. Although constantly advised thus by his mother, the wicked boy did not abandon his evil ways. For, an idiot indulging in vice is beyond redemption. Who is he that is not broken up by the evil influences of hunting, wine, slander, untruth, theft, gambling, and prostitutes? The wicked fellow, Gulnanihai, used to lay his hands on whatever he could see in the house, a cloth, a base metal etc., and take it to the gambling den, there to lose the same to his brother gamblers. Once he stole a very valuable ring of his father set with precious stones and gave it to one of gamblers. It chanced that one day the Dixita saw it in the hand of the gambler. He asked the fellow, "Where did you get this ring from?" First the gambler did not say anything. When repeatedly asked he said, "O Brahmin, you are unnecessarily accusing me of theft. It was your son who gave it to me. On the previous day I had won his mother's upper garment. Do not think that I alone was the winner of this ring. He has lost many costly things to other gamblers as well. He has thus given gems, metals, silk garments, vessels, golden vases, and different sorts of copper and bell metal pots. Every day he is being bound stark naked by the gamblers. In the whole world you cannot see such a useless poor gambler as he, your son. How is it that till now, O Brahmin, you have not realized that your son is a ringleader of base gamblers, very clever in misdemeanor and unfair means?" On hearing these words, the poor Dixita's head bent down with shame. He covered his face and head with a cloth and quietly slipped back into his house. Yagnadatta, the sacrificer, well versed in Vedic rites, spoke thus to his wife, who was a very chaste lady. Yagnadatta said, "O mistress, where is that gambling rogue of a son, Gunanidhi? Or let it be. Why should I ask for him? Where is that auspicious ring which you took off at the time of applying unguents on my body? Bring it quickly and give it to me." The mistress was frightened at these words. While she was engaged in arranging for bath and midday sacred rites, she replied, "O Lord, I am busy arranging the various articles of offerings for worship. O Lord, fond of guests, the guests may be unnecessarily detained. While I was busy cooking the pudding, I kept the ring somewhere in some vessel just now. What a pity! I have forgotten it. I do not know where it has been kept." Dixita said, "O truthful lady who has given birth to a base boy, whenever I asked where has the son gone, you used to say, 'Dear Lord, Just now he has gone out after finishing his lesson of the Vedas, in the company of 2 or 3 friends for revision of the lesson. Where is your silk sari red like matter which I had presented to you and which used to hang down here in the house always? Tell me the truth. Do not be afraid. That gem-set golden vase which I had given you is also missing. That tripod with a velvet cushion which I had given you is nowhere to be seen. Where is that bell metal pot made in the south? Where is that copper pot made in Bengal? Where is that ivory casket intended for curios and trinkets? Where is that wonderfully fine statuette of a lady lighting a lamp, shining like the moon, and brought from the hilly province? Why should I unnecessarily speak much? O lady of a noble family, it is futile to be angry with you. I shall take food only after I marry again. I am childless now since that wicked fellow has defiled the whole family. Get up and fetch me some water. Let me offer libations to him with gingly seeds. Better to be issueless than have a wicked son who defiles the entire family. It is the traditional policy to abandon one to save the family. The Brahmana took his bath, performed his daily rites and married the daughter of a Vedic scholar the same day. Chapter 18, The Redemption of Gunanidhi. Brahma said Gunanidhi, the son of the Dixita Yajanadita, came to know of this. Regretfully he cursed himself and set off from that place. After wandering aimlessly for a long time, he, the wicked fellow, felt the abandonment keenly. And losing all hopes halted at a place. He thought to himself, where am I to go? What shall I do? I have not studied much, nor am I rich enough. Only a wealthy man can be happy in a foreign land, although he has to face the fear of thieves there. Of course this fear is present everywhere. I am born in the family of priests officiating in sacrifices. Why am I reduced to this wretched plight? Fate is powerful indeed, controlling all our future actions. I cannot even beg as I have no acquaintance, no money. Where shall I seek refuge? Every day, even before sunrise, my mother used to feed me with sweet pudding. Today whom shall I beg? My mother too is away from me. O Narad, even as he was musing like this woefully, sitting at the foot of a tree, the sun set. In the meantime a certain devotee of Lord Shiva came out of the city taking with him various articles of offering. He had observed fast on the Shivaratri day. In order to worship Lord Shiva, he was on his way, along with his kinsmen and was carrying different sorts of delightful offerings. The devotee entered the temple of Shiva where he worshipped him in the prescribed manner with sincere devotion. The Brahmin boy, son of Yagnadatta, devoid of his mother and dismissed by his father, was very hungry by this time. He inhaled the sweet fragrance of the sweet puddings and followed the devotee. If fortunately these devotees of Shiva go to sleep after offering the eatables to Shiva, I shall eat these vast varieties of puddings and sweets in the night. With this hope he sat at the threshold of the temple of Shiva watching the great worship by the devotee. When the worship was over, the songs and dances of prayer were duly concluded, the devotees lay down and began to sleep. Immediately the young man entered the sanctum sanctorum of Shiva in order to steal the eatables left there. The lamp was burning very dimly. Hence in order to see the puddings clearly he tore a piece of cloth from his lower garment and put that piece in the lamp as a wick, thus making the lamp give a good light. Yandada's son gleefully took plenty of the sweets offered as eatables to Lord Shiva by the devotees. With sweets in his hands he came out hurriedly. In his hurry he stamped on some person lying there, who woke up immediately. "Who is that? Who is running away so fast? Catch him!" So shouted the man, who woke up in a voice hoarse with fear. The Brahmin boy, Gunanidhi, who ran for life, became blind. So he was caught and killed by the watchman on duty. O sage, by the favor of Shiva or by the power of accumulated merit, the son of Yagnadatta could not partake of the offerings of eatables made to Lord Shiva. The terrible soldiers of Yama, who desired to take him to Samyamani, the abode of Yama, approached him with nooses and clubs in their hands and bound him. In the meantime the attendants of Shiva, with tridents in their hands and tinkling anklets on their arms, reached the spot in an aerial chariot in order to take him to Shivaloka. Sivagana said, "O attendants of Yama, leave this righteous Brahmin alone. He cannot be punished since his sins have been burnt off." On hearing these words of Shiva's attendants, the attendants of Yama became terrified and addressed the attendants of Shiva. Yamagana said, "O Ganas, this is a wicked Brahmin who has broken the traditions and conventions of his family. He has disobeyed his father's directions and has forsaken truthfulness or purity. He does not offer his Sandhya prayers. He does not take his ceremonial baths regularly. Leave aside his other activities. He has now transgressed and outraged the offerings of eatables made to Shiva. You can see this personally. In fact, he is not worthy of even being touched by people like you. Those who consume or outrage the offerings of eatables made to Shiva and those who offer these to others, the mere touch of these persons, it is said, is sinful. Even poison is not so dangerous when drunk. Never shall a person make use of Shiva's property even if he were to die. It is granted that you are an authority on virtue. We are not. But O Ganas, if this fellow has at least a bit of virtue to his credit, please let us hear the same." On hearing these words of Yama's attendants, the attendants of Shiva remembered the lotus-like feet of Shiva and spoke to them thus. Shiva's attendants said, "O attendants of Yama, Shiva's ideas of Dharma are very subtle. They can be observed only by persons of subtle and keen vision, not by people like you whose aim is only the gross exterior. O Ganas, hear attentively what the son of Yagnadatta has done, which has freed him from sins. The shadow of the lamp was falling on the top of the linga, and this Brahmin prevented it by adding a wick to the lamp at night, cutting a piece from his lower cloth. Another great merit he derived from listening to the names of Shiva, though casually, O attendants. He witnessed the worship that was being performed duly by a devotee. He was observing a fast and his mind was concentrated too. Let him go to Shivaloka along with us. As Shiva's follower, let him enjoy great pleasures there for some time. Then he will shake off his sins and become the king of Kalinga, since he has indeed become a great favorite of Shiva. Nothing else need be mentioned now. Let all of you, emissaries of Yama, return to your own world with contented minds." Brahma said, "O lordly sage, on hearing these words of Shiva's attendants, the emissaries of Yama returned to Yama's abode. O sage, they narrated everything to Yama, whatever the messengers of Shiva told them about Dharma, etc. Dharmaraja said, "O Ganas, listen attentively to what I say. Whatever I direct you to do, you shall do with loving devotion. O Ganas, you shall avoid those persons who bear on their forehead the mark of Tripundra besmeared with white ashes. Never shall they be brought here. O Ganas, you shall avoid those persons who regularly dust their body with white ashes. Never shall they be brought here. You shall avoid all those persons who assume the garb and features of Shiva, whatever their reason may be. Never shall they be brought here. You shall avoid those persons who wear rude rakshas and keep matted hair. Never shall they be brought here. You shall avoid those persons who imitate the dress or the features of Shiva, even for their livelihood. Never shall they be brought here. You shall avoid those persons who imitate the dress and features of Shiva even for the purpose of deception. Never shall they be brought here. O Yama thus commanded his servants. They too agreed to follow his command and remained silent with the flickering smile on their lips. Brahma said, thus freed from the emissaries of Yama, the Brahmin boy became pure-minded and went to Shivaloka along with the attendants of Shiva. There he served Shiv and Shiva, Parvati, and enjoyed all sorts of pleasures. Afterwards he was born as the son of Arindama, the king of Kalinga. Known as Dama, he was devoted to the service of Shiva. Even as a boy he carried on many acts of devotion to Shiva in the company of other children. When his father passed away he became the king in the prime of his youth. In his kingdom he spread the ideals and tenets of Shiva lovingly. The king Dama was unconquerable. O Brahmin, he did not stress any act of piety other than furnishing temples of Shiva with lamps in plenty. He called headmen of the villages in his kingdom and asked them to furnish all temples of Shiva with lamps. He warned them that if they defaulted they would be punished. It is declared in the Vedas that Shiva is delighted at the gift of a lamp to his temples. Therefore, you headmen shall see that the temples of Shiva in your jurisdiction are properly illuminated with lamps. There is no question of hesitation in this matter. Undoubtedly I shall get the defaulter beheaded. Thus for fear of him every temple was duly illuminated. With this act of piety alone, as long as he lived, the king Dama acquired ample prosperity. Finally he passed away. The impression of lamps persisted in his mind. He caused many lamps to be lighted. Finally he became the lord of Ilaka with gem-set lamps to his credit. Thus even the smallest service rendered to Shiva bears rich fruit in time. Let all persons seeking happiness realize this and continue the worship of Shiva. That son of Dixita never cared for any act of piety. It was to steal that he had entered the temple of Shiva. To serve his own end he had brightened the lamp there, thereby dispelling the shadow of darkness on the top of the linga. Then he became the virtuous king of Kalinga. O foremost of the sages were the wicked son of the Dixita, and were the guardian of a quarter. Although he had been simply a man, he became the guardian of a quarter. Thus I have narrated the story of Gunanidhi, the son of Yajanadata. The story is pleasing to Shiva. Besides, it grants all desires of the listening devotees. O dear one, I shall tell you how he became the close friend of Shiva. Listen attentively. Chapter 19, The Friendship of Shiva and Kubera. Brahma said, in the Kalpa called Padma, I created my mental son Pulastya, whose son Visravas begot the son Vaisrava. He propitiated the three-eyed god Shiva, with a very severe penance, and enjoyed the city of Ilaka built by Visvakrite. When that Kalpa was over and the Meghavahana Kalpa had started, the son of Yagnadatta, Srita, performed a severe penance. Realizing the efficacy of devotion to Shiva accruing from the mere illumination of his temple with lamps, he reached Kasi for the illumination of his thought. Under the luster of the gems of the mind, he repeated the mantras of 11 Rudras with loyal devotion and unswerving concentration of the mind. He could realize his identity with Shiva. Then he performed very severe penance for 200,000 years, a penance which was enhanced by the fire of austerity, was free from encroachment of the firefly in the form of interference from lust and anger, was windless inasmuch as the breath was curbed and was pure in form with pure vision. He set up the liriga of Shiva and worshipped it with flowers of good ideas and feelings. The penance was so severe that his body was reduced to skin and bones. Then in the company of the goddess Parvati, the Lord Visvesvara himself addressed the devotee, the Lord of Ilaka, with a pleasant mind. The devotee who stood as a stump with mind concentrated on the linga, I am ready to grant you a boon. Choose it, O Lord of Ilaka. The devotee opened his eyes and gazed at Lord Shiva, the moon-crested consort of Uma, who was shining with a brilliance that excelled thousands of suns. Dazzled by the brilliance, he closed his eyes and addressed the Lord of Lords, who is beyond the reach of mental conception. O Lord, please give my eyes the power to see your feet. This itself is a great boon, O Lord, that I see you present. O Lord, O moon-crested God, obeisance be to you. Of what avail are other boons? On hearing his words, the Lord of Devas, Uma's consort, touched him with his palm and gave him the requisite of vision. Then on securing the power, Yagnadatta's son opened his eyes and saw Uma alone at first. Who is this lady beautiful in person, near Shiva the Lord? What penance did she perform more difficult than mine? What a form! Luck, what a fine glory several times! What a love! What a good! He repeated these words. While he was doing this and glancing cruelly at Uma, his left eye, as a result of seeing the lady, burst. Then the goddess told Shiva, why does this wicked ascetic look at me often and say, you make my penance shine, and seeing me with his right eye jealously, why does he marvel at my beauty, love, and good luck? On hearing the words of the goddess, Lord Shiva laughed and said, O Uma, he is your son. He does not look at you angrily or jealously. He is describing your glory of penance. After saying this to the goddess, Isa told him again, Dear son, I am delighted at your penance. I shall give you the boon you desire. You will be the Lord of treasures and the Lord of Goyakas. You will be the king of Yaksas, Kinnaraso and rulers. You will be the leader of Punya Yajanas and the bestower of wealth to all. My friendship with you shall remain forever. I shall stay near you, very near Ilaka, dear friend, in order to increase your love. O son of Yagna-Aditya, great devotee, come on. This is your mother. Fall at her feet with delighted heart. Brahma said. After granting him boons, Lord Shiva told Uma, O goddess, be pleased with him. This ascetic is your own son. On hearing these words of Shiva, Parvati, the mother of the universe, said to the son of Yagnadatta with a delighted mind. The goddess said, Dear son, may your pure devotion to Shiva remain forever. With your left eye burst you will be Eka Pinga, having a yellow mark in place of an eye. May all the boons granted to you by the Lord fructify. You shall be called Kubera, lit possessed of ill-shaped body, O son, since you jealously looked at me. After granting these boons to Kubera, Lord Maheswara, in the company of the goddess Parvati, entered his Visvavara abode. Thus Kubera attained the friendship of Shiva. Very near his city Ilaka was Kailasa, the abode of Shiva.